Good afternoon. I'm Betty Ford, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi.
Thank you. A recovering woman alcoholic, and I might say very grateful. As I come in the afternoon like this and have an opportunity to speak to all of you, it really takes me back to several years ago when I went off to the Navy program at Long Beach Naval Hospital for treatment. So it's a good experience because I begin to remember how I felt and what was going through my head and my mind. I know I was very, very scared. I didn't know what to expect. And I was very frightened. And actually, when the elevator doors opened on the third floor, which is where their program at Long Beach Hospital was, I looked at this big white desk, and it said, Drug and Alcohol Rehab Center. And I went through my mind, how in the world did I end up here? I wanted to just back up and have those elevator doors close and go on home and forget about the whole thing and hope it would all go away. And yet, underneath it all, I knew I was sick. I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what it was. And I was kind of glad that I was someplace, actually, where they were going to do something about how I felt or how I didn't feel, because I didn't feel well. I was very grateful. Anger, yes. Lots of anger at my family for confronting me. But basically, there was this gratefulness I had that my family truly cared enough to do something about me and to tell me, actually, that they loved me too much to let me go. And that struck very close to my heart when they said that. And it made me realize they weren't just against me, they were trying to help me. I was really grateful that I had a disease that was treatable. When I heard that gave me a lot of relief because I didn't know much about alcoholism or drug dependency. I was not only glad that my disease was treatable, but I was tremendously grateful that God was going to give me another chance. I had had breast cancer, and I had survived that. And now I was confronted with addiction. And by golly, I made up my mind I was going to survive that, too. I never thought of myself as an alcoholic. I always considered myself just a social drinker. I drank like everybody else. Don't we all? At least that's in our head. And I could be in great denial because I didn't drink in the morning. I didn't knock back Bloody Marys, and I didn't have any DUIs. Of course, I didn't drive a car, but that made it kind of handy. Who knows? But I thought it was all just a problem with my neck and my back because I had been in treatment for 15 years for a pinched nerve in my neck and a very bad back problem. So to me, it was the doctors that were to blame for this. And certainly, I could deny that and not take any of the blame. But when it came to alcohol, of course, I had to realize, well, that was a choice I made. So I had to, own up to that. Blame it on the doctors, but also on myself. over the years, I had been taking probably drugs and whatnot 4 times a day. I had drugs for everything. I had pain medication. I had tranquilizers. I had sleeping medication. And I had prescriptions to counteract the side effects of those drugs that I was taking. Plus, naturally, I had things for stomach disorders, because with all that stuff going through my system, I had terrible stomach disorders. And all these things were very strong. And all of this was going through my system, and I was adding on top of that alcohol, what I said, in a social setting. In other words, in that time of day or afternoon when it would be appropriate to have a couple of drinks. So I had no feeling of being, dependent and leaning on and being in a addiction sense. But of course, that was my denial. Taking all this stuff made me feel pretty good. It relieved a lot of the pain. And by evening, I was, as I said, feeling no pain, kind of floating on cloud 9, but my family were nowhere near cloud 9. They were suffering from my mood swings. They were suffering from my inability to cope with problems. They were suffering from all those things that I was failing to do. I'd gotten so I was pulling back from things, and I depended on them. It was all kind of me and self-centeredness, all of that sort of thing. And can't you help me? And can't you be to me what I need you to be? So they were pretty well fed up with it. But it wasn't only the pain that all these pills and everything. Of course, if you ever combine alcohol with prescription drugs, and I'm sure I'd see a few hands here if I asked for it, it's a marvelous effect. I hate to think about it, but it does. It removes all that pain, and it also removed all the feelings of being dissatisfied. It made everything beautiful. And so that was what I looked forward to every afternoon. It made me feel less self-conscious. It made me feel more comfortable within situations, even social situations, all those sort of things. And it gave me a feeling of wellness, which was not what it was doing for me at all. And it wasn't until after I got through treatment that I realized what the component was and what the results would be, and was in my case, when you add drugs and alcohol. And as they said, it isn't a matter of 2 + 2 = 4. It's more like 2 + 2 = 22, which is a tremendous difference from just the normal way that you would expect it to work. So this was a wonderful combination, and it worked well for me for a long time. And I continued, and my family didn't realize it. They didn't know anything about alcoholism. They were not aware of the aspects or the indication of it. And it wasn't until they got help that they fall.